Yeah. Alrighty, it's recording. Timer is
Sanibonani guys, Thobela Dumelang Molweni. You are with Dietitian V on the Lav-Living Wellness channel. Welcome back, all subscribers, previous viewers, and welcome to all people that are new. Channel we talk about all things life, health, and wellness. And by now, everybody knows I love my cinnamon tea, though it's finished. So, and I'm gonna have a difficult time having this conversation today because of the song playing on my background. It makes me want to do. Okay, so I'm not a good singer, but I'm hearing music and I just have instincts to go with it and rhythm, All right, today we're talking about diabetes, and we're talking about diabetes in a special community of people that I really, really love a lot. We did the intro on diabetes for all of us, and where we all feature into this whole thing, where we do the wellness screens and all that, some of the things that we can do. Now that part is done, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out our previous video. Right, today, when I say I want us to focus on a very special community, I just want to focus on pregnant women and diabetes. And just as I'm reflecting on it, so many thoughts and memories of people that I've experienced in my journey working as a dietitian and maternity just comes to mind. I mean, I've seen painful stories. I've also seen beautiful stories, but the most painful things that you see in a clinical setup is when you have a pregnant woman that comes at the end of the pregnancy, or when they've pushed many weeks and they come with a stillborn because of diabetes. Talking about this is quite heavy. Even as a health worker, sometimes people think that we don't necessarily feel or we don't necessarily seem to experience trauma as in the hospital, because you've got patients that throughout you're faced with death quite a lot, or whether it's children that pass away or in other ways, chronic patients that you've seen for a long time. So sometimes communities tend to think that health workers don't really have got that human thing where you feel loss and death. It's like everybody, just keep it moving. The reality of life is such that in the hospital, you can't always be grieving like that, but it doesn't mean we don't grieve, we do. So as we're talking about diabetes and pregnant women, so yeah, my feels are all over the place. So, but with that, I just want us to talk about how pregnant women experience diabetes and what you can do as a partner, as a neighbor or a friend, or as a husband, as a sister and mother and whatever. If you're living with someone who's pregnant and living with diabetes in pregnancy, just pay attention, and you can actually contribute a great deal into assisting a sister to maintain their pregnancy to the end. Children are a beautiful gift. I've never seen a gift as beautiful as being given the life of another person. Children are beautiful. God bless. So, when a person who is not a known diabetic, a woman who is not a known diabetic, did not know that they have diabetes and they've never had diabetes, but it develops when they are pregnant. When they're pregnant, English, that condition is called gestational diabetes. And of course, a woman that is diabetic can fall pregnant, just that type of diabetes is not called gestational diabetes. So for our conversation, we are having an umbrella for women, pregnant women that are diabetic, whether they are known diabetics who are pregnant, or they are non-diabetic who develop diabetes in pregnancy. I hope that is well understood. We are just talking about women that are pregnant and that are diabetic, to say in this sacred space where they are in, the sacred space of pregnancy. Pregnancy is a sacred moment, women and family. Pregnancy is very pure and very sacred. It should be preserved, it should be protected, it should be honored and respected. So I respect this gestational period that much, and I hope you do as well, so that you still protect pregnant women around you. So the goal during this space, during the sacred space of pregnancy, the goal is to ensure that both the mother and the child are healthy. So when a woman is diabetic and they are not pregnant, their body alone can take varied forms or varied levels of sugar levels. But when a woman is pregnant, the fetus cannot take this wide range of sugar levels. So the target range for sugar levels for when a person is pregnant becomes tight. So a normal or an acceptable range of sugar levels for someone that is pregnant in diabetes, it's somewhere between 4 and 6.8. So you don't want the sugar levels above 7. You also don't want the sugar levels less than 4. However, for other people that are diabetic and not pregnant, the body can live comfortably with sugar levels ranging somewhere 5 to 8, or not more than 10 and not less than 4, that way. So, but for people that are pregnant, you want to keep your sugar levels even after you have eaten, including with meals. You want to keep your sugar levels between that range that I mentioned, the 4 to 6.8. So even your postprandial sugar levels, when I say postprandial, or when we say postprandial, we are referring to sugar levels after you have eaten. It is possible to get your sugar levels like that. So it is quite important to ensure that as a pregnant mama, you protect your baby, and ensuring that the type of food that you eat will at least help you to contain the sugar levels like that. This is not a medical consultation, and I must say it will not replace the one-on-one advice that you will have in a clinical consultation with your doctor and your dietitian. So you still need to make that consultation. Right here, what we are doing is just a wellness talk as to point you to directions of where you might need to go in terms of your consultations, what you might need to do when you have situations. Don't just sit at home until problems have advanced. So you still need to make that consultation. I hope it is very much clear. I have to stress it because here we're talking about precious unborn lives. So that being said, we want to keep that tight sugar levels because, one, we want to ensure that the duration of the pregnancy actually can stretch to up until the baby is matured in the womb. So this life that you are carrying, this beautiful, precious life that you are carrying, is supposed to grow in utero. It is supposed to grow in your uterus up until the day that life comes in contact with other people, because that life was there. It was not in contact with the rest of everybody. It was just in contact with you as a mother. And so we want to ensure that the experience of this life inside of you, because you are the world at that point. So we want to ensure that the environment that this child lives in your uterus is quite healthy, is protected as well. Hence, it is very much important for a pregnant mama to ensure that the sugar levels are actually quite normal. Sometimes we get people that would ask you silly questions like, doesn't life begin when a child is born? My God and my Father. So, okay, life is in the womb, it begins in the womb, and hence you go through a lot of things in the uterus. So again, with that, we want to make sure that the sugar levels are normal within the uterine space. So we got the targets. I've already discussed what those targets are. Now, where do you begin? Now that you know that you are a mother with diabetes in pregnancy, where do you begin? You can begin with having a glucose testing machine, that one that you can use to do your sugar pricks, to finger prick, and it can tell you where your sugar levels are. You can test your sugar level in the morning when you have not eaten, and you can test your sugar levels after you have eaten. And of course, in a consultation, your clinician will tell you how often they need you to do that the test. I could just say, in a situation where sometimes there are struggles, because maybe you are from the clinic or whatever, or you don't have resources, but at least a good 3 days might give you an idea. 3 days in 7 days of a week can give you an idea of how you are doing, if the resources or access to resources is a problem. We can't pretend. We live, I know that I'm speaking from South Africa and we do have access to these things, but there are people that are also watching us and from other places that don't necessarily have access to resources, but you can get yourself that glucose testing machine to know what your sugar levels are. If you are a mama who's pregnant and living with diabetes, and that's the first place that's where you can also help yourself. When you have levels that are high, sometimes we do find mamas whose sugar levels, especially when you enter the third trimester. So you often find that in the third trimester, it usually becomes very difficult to control the sugar levels. They tend to be very, very high in the last trimester. So even at that, you need to again seek your medical help, so that with medication and your diet, you can contain your sugar levels. And of course, often when the sugar levels are high, a mama is at the risk of giving birth prematurely, because the child that is exposed to high levels of sugars, they tend to grow quite bigger than normal. So you find that the child looks so big, but they are not matured. So, and when I say they're not matured, is you find a child that looks so big for the uterine space, but the internal organs are far, far, far from maturity. So which means that child, even if it will come out to contact the rest of the earth, it means if they are born that prematurely, because of the level of prematurity that is taking place, your child will still need to be incubated and to grow inside inside machines, just to put it that way. So, and that also presents its own risks for maturity, for growth. Mamas that had premature deliveries, they know how emotionally and spiritually taxing that situation is. So every doctor wants to make sure that a child can be kept in utero for as long as it possibly can be done, up until that age of maturity, or up until the pregnancy is close to being due, at least that. So that's that. So if you find that your sugar levels are kind of too high, please seek assistance, seek medical help as a preggy mama, because one of the things that is very painful is to see a mama that has pushed a pregnancy and only at the end to just come with a still child. I've seen that too many times. It's so painful. It is so painful to bear, and so painful to even comprehend what another mother could be feeling like. So I want to prevent things like that. Then let us talk about the food, a little bit of the food. And even as I'm talking about that, do understand that this is not replacing a medical consultation. So I'm just going to touch here, there, baselines, just so that you understand what you ought to do. I've already discussed the target levels. So in terms of the food and how you keep a record of your sugar levels, in the pregnancy situation, you will find that, especially for the high-risk mamas, you will find that, especially even in the hospitals, we do that. We tend to do sugar tracking instead of sugar pricks. So what do I mean by the sugar tracking? Is that you eat and then you check your sugar levels afterwards. You eat a lunch and then you check your sugar levels afterwards. You have a supper and then you check your sugar levels afterwards. So that's like a sugar tracking. So when I'm saying, even if maybe there are no resources, but that's like an ideal thing to do. So you could be like tracking, maybe to say like, today I'm gonna track my sugars and then see what it goes like. Maybe on Wednesday, I'm gonna track my sugars. to see what goes. That also gives you an idea of knowing which kind of food are actually working very, very well for you, mama. And so in terms of the food, let me just give you an example of the things that can actually get your sugar levels high. So fruits, for one, because of their fructose, especially if they are ripe, they can get your blood sugar levels extremely quite high. Dried fruits, it's obvious, they will get your sugar levels high. And I see my guests popping eyes when I say dry fruits because they look quite healthy, right? And I mean, and also if you are hospitalized, your husband is going to come dangling a fruit basket. So when a preggy mama who's diabetic or who's living with diabetes in the pregnancy has now that fruit basket or that fruit salad, you are going to struggle to control the sugar levels. Those grapes that you're having, they look beautiful. They're 100% fruit juices. By now, you know that we do not make it normal to have food with juices, but these fruit juices, especially the 100% ones, they are going to shoot your sugar levels way, way too high. So those are some of the things you want to like turn a blind eye to, isn't like avoid them, not necessarily that ignore, not that pretend that like they're not gonna affect you. And some of the things that I get to see that a lot of preggy mummies do is sometimes grazing without paying attention. So you find that the mama will be grazing on chips, fries, biscuits, drinks. If you're one of those mamas that graze like that in your pregnancy and you are diabetic, you will actually struggle quite a lot with controlling your sugar levels. So the ideal is to have like intentional meals. When I say intentional meals, to know that this is now breakfast, this is now my meal snack where I want to bridge my sugar levels between my breakfast and my lunch. And you can say now this is my lunch, this is what I'm having, and my afternoon snack when I'm trying to bridge in my sugar between my lunch and my dinner, and then my bedtime snack. So like that. So now when you start to have like intentional meals, you get to know what should I make my plate to look like. One day I will invite you when I do the cooking class, the visual cooking class, and you can all join in together with me when we do the diabetic meal day. So some of the intentional food that you can bring in on your groceries is things that we don't usually buy, but they are there for our health, and maybe because we don't know how to add them in the food. So things like your barleys, which you can mix with your rice and cook them together, things like that. Things like the wheat grain, which you can boil, cook, and serve together with your breakfast porridge, things like that. And when I say breakfast porridge, like things like your rolled oats kind of situations, these are kind of foods that can actually help you. That being said, again, like I always will tell you, go and make that consultation. You'll get yourself an individualized special diet to know how to work around your diabetes. I think everywhere in the public hospitals, private hospitals, there are clinical dietitians that you can go make consultations with. And that being said, I love you, preggy mommy. Have a wonderful pregnancy. I pray that the Lord will give you a good pregnancy. And to all the viewers, we love you. Until next time. Bye.